Hi guys, you're in the right place if you want to learn how to draw by understanding what you're looking at rather than breaking things down into shapes. And today I'd like to do this little pine warbler with you. So what you need is your scrap piece of paper. I'd like you to have a black pen, and I'd like you to have two colored pencils. If you can find a yellow and a black, then what we'll do is we will combine these two shades to sort of add some color to our sketch, because I had this idea that maybe what we can do is just outline him and color him in. So I don't know, let's just see how it goes. He is like a little warbler. They're small birds, so his tail feathers go all the way to this part of the in the shadow of the post. They end over here. So in the photo he is like a little bit long, so be mindful of that on your paper with where you start. So let's just begin with a typical small warbler bill, and just tip down the end a little bit to show the orientation of his face, and take this back into his face. We don't want to do too much detail with our pen, but you know, with the ink we can get some nice deep shading and whatnot with the ink that just is a little bit more difficult to achieve with a colored pencil. So let's just get his bill, the nostril, these dark feathers around his mouth that go down under his eye, and these broken feathers that go back to his eye. And then we've got this beautiful oval for his eye, and large white reflective areas off the lens. And we're just paying attention to the black right now, and the darker parts of the bird we are going to be using our pen. And we don't have to do everything first pass, right? We never do. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I did think that it was kind of like worth a try, because I do want to see if this will, you know, kind of like a coloring book, right? Where we have our outline and then we shade them in with our colored pencils. I don't know. Okay, that's enough for the bill right now, and let's just take our line, see where you did his nostril, and go down underneath that, and we have a very short area for his throat right underneath the bill, and then we go just down here, so almost we have a nice straight angle downward, and just light pressure with your pen, okay? Because this part we're going to be coloring yellow. We don't want him to be too, we don't want our pen to be too prominent. And then we've got the upper chest, so his rib cage that curls around, and then underneath for his tummy, which is, because of the way he's perched, this is basically flat here. And we're going to shade this up. Okay, now with the off the top of his bill, we have this nice shallow angle with his forehead, and then up to the top, that little bump at the very top of his head, and then a flattish section going to the top of his head, and then See how there's not much of a drop? We can fix this angle as well with our colored pencil. And then right is this little dip at the back of his head, and then the bump for the curve of his back. And then we've got the wing feathers. And then these feathers that are sticking out, those are the primaries. The wing. Maybe we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but if our angles work out okay, then this would be all right. And we've got the other primaries that are stacked on top of his tail. How are your angles looking? Let's push his tail out a little bit. Now, if we come, have you made him thick enough? This also we can adjust with our colored pencil if you want to bring this down a little bit more, because I think I probably will as well. And then we've got the bottom of his tail feathers, kind of like come out. These little guys are called the butterflies of the forest, and they really do flit in and amongst the branches of the trees. This is the undertail coverts. And we're just trying to get some guidelines down with our pen. Fluffy bum feathers. Let's work our way down. And then he's down to his little bum here, the back of his body. And then his leg. See, this has to be down more for my sketch anyway, so I should maybe just pull this down a little bit more right now. And then lightly watch your angle. His legs, there is quite a bit of, you see, because they're so agile and whatnot in amongst the trees, they do have to have kind of like longish legs to perch on all those branches. It'd be hard to do if they had stubby little legs. And it's so confusing, but anyway, this right here is the back toe for this foot. This is the claw, which is the back toe for this foot here. And so he's got, this is the 1, 2, and the third toe is here. So just do the best you can to do all this confusing double jointed angles for his toes. And the toes on the other foot, we on like almost can't see at all. We'll just fake it. See here, we'll put this other leg through here. And then see part of the toe there. I think I need to make his foot a little bit thicker through here. Give the toes their characteristic lines. We're going to be doing proper shading with our colored pencil through here anyway, but just so that you stay oriented. And then we just do see a little bit of the top joint of his foot here. It's kind of awkward border of the post. And then here underneath this toe, just take the plank back. So yeah, I don't know. See the angle of the post itself, it comes forward like this. Anyway, we'll figure that out, or not. Okay, now with our pen, we're going to just put in some boundaries. So you see where his shoulder is, and we just want to make a few of these little markings here to section off these areas so we know what to do with our colored pencil. And then this band of white, this wing bar, goes all the way across his back. And then we've got these, I guess these would be the lesser coverts, these are the greater coverts, these would be the secondaries, and then the primaries coming out underneath. So let's just see if we can carefully delineate some of these. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just going to be more of guidance for our colored pencil when we come through. And see, this is the primaries are get all stacked. And then the secondaries. This is a primary on the other wing. I just choose a white section that you see on his back and just try to just mark some of them, because those borders where the white is, that's where we're going to end with our colored pencil. Okay, see this little bump right here? That's a toe coming around the post. And I think because of the angle of the post, if you can include that. Oh, and look, believe it or not, you know what I think this is? This is his middle toe, which is, see how long the middle toe is? And this is his claw right here. So on this foot, the middle toe comes all the way down and wraps around. So if we can just imagine that toe with the claw coming around here as well. Okay, I don't know what we're going to do with all this mess in here. Probably just color it in. Now, I want to darken up where I've actually put his toes, like the nails, the claws, whatever, so that I don't lose those in my sketch. Now, are you kind of satisfied with what you've done with your, I gotta add a few more lines here where the secondaries are piling on top of the primaries. Because I didn't want it to be too complicated with the pen today. Now we can always use our pen to go back and darken things up, which I know I'm going to want to, because I like that depth of color. So, but for now, how about we switch to our yellow? Okay, and I'd like you just to use light light pressure, shade him in on the head, around his face, under his chin, down onto his chest. Stay away from where his wings are. I don't know if this is going to work, you guys, but and I'm so sorry about all the, let me just try. Now you see a whole bunch of fingerprints here, but if the fingerprints aren't on the bird, that should be okay. Just color him in under his tummy as well, but not all the way back, because he is a little bit white back there. And onto his back, just do a little bit of shading, get those undertones of yellow. And just use light pressure with your colored pencil. For now let's switch to the black and use light pressure as well. So this is why I have like a scrap piece of paper, because I want you to use a side of your colored pencil that already has an angle to it, so that you're not putting down anything harsh. And just on top of the yellow, just add some of this black around his face and his head, under his chin, through the shoulder, and onto his back. And what I want us to practice is just using two colors together. These feathers are all ruffled right at his shoulder. And lots of feathers through his chest. I'm just hardly using any pressure at all. He's got the white, he's got the, you see the darkness of his body through here. I'm going to pull that down a little bit more. I need to make him a little bit. And it's nice and loose. And you know, with scrap paper, it doesn't really pick up, it doesn't have a lot of texture, so it's not really picking up a lot of color, but just to kind of get something down, might as well shade in his dark legs. And toes. Now we are going to be going back and forth quite a bit, okay? So let's, while we've got our black in hand, let's put down one layer with his the wings. Now you see where those white tips are, so we wanted to keep our pencil, our colored pencil, away from those. our kind of like borders that we've left ourselves. We can use our pen to add more distinction in through his wings and stuff later. And then the gray on his shoulder. And we want to have quite a bit of yellow through here as well. So have to be careful so that we can get those wispy feathers in around his, coming off his chest. Now, can you pick up your yellow? And let's go back, and we're going to use slightly more pressure. Let's give him some oomph. And then in through the face. And if you want to switch some of your angles, this would be a good time to do it as well. Let's give him some brightness through the chest, where the light is kind of like reflecting on these golden feathers. And then there's quite a bit of yellow, these feathers off his chest. I just want to sort of deepen everything that we've done. So that he's kind of got some character. And the shadow part, that's what we're gonna like redo with our, go over things again with our black colored pencil. You know what? I think I've made his head too small. So I'd almost like to, I'm gonna switch back to my pen. I'd like to just kind of give him a little bit of a hairdo, but let's take this up and out further. And this hunch with his upper back. Oh, no. And then get these deeper. So just alter the pressure of the colored pencil, and we just want to combine our black and our yellow. How's yours coming along? Now with the black, if you're ready to go back to doing some of his feathers, rotate your colored pencil so that you know you're getting sometimes a sharper edge and sometimes not, depending on where you're going and if you want to make things a little bit more gray and blended. Actually, I should be a little bit systematic. I'm going to go back to his head. and put in a few of the darker tones. And you know, we can always use the ink from our pen to add that depth. Or just rotate your colored pencil until you have a sharper edge that will kind of like bite into the paper a little bit better. And just keep working it out so that his face and the cheek feathers, more shading under his bill, and the ruffle through his shoulder. And then the feathers that come off the cheek and into the back. A bit more of the gray. And then when you get to a place where he is supposed to have this nice deep black, you just keep rotating your pencil. Stay away from the white though, those white edges. And if you can, sometimes even drop your pencil down one finger so you can get like a sharper edge on the paper. And just pick it up and go along and try to get these different areas that are darker. It's harder to rotate when it's between your fingers like this, but anyway. And then with the tail, these so we can use our pen, the ink from our pen, to get down these heavier black lines for the feather borders. And even cheat and use our ink to get our nice deep black. You know, when it's scrap paper, it is really hard to get the depth that you want to for the shading. But that's all right. Like the experimenting. You know what? I'm going to use my pen to get his leg darker. Because first of all, it's dark and it's in shadow. We can maybe feel like doing the same. A shade in the under part of his little tooties, where it's under his body anyway. Narrow little legs. And some contour and texture around his feet. This is kind of turning into a bit of a mess for me right here. I've lost the definition of this toe. almost lost the definition of this toe as well. It's tricky with this post that he's perched on. We should have figured out a kind of branch or something. Because all this fencing, I'm really not too sure. It's like this is a post and this is a cross beam. Maybe we shouldn't worry about it too much. Now let's get our black and go back to figuring out the doing the shading under his bum. All this here, okay? Because first of all, we've got these different feathers that are underneath his body, and we've got the curve of his body in the shadow. And then shading underneath. We don't have too much shading under his wing, a little bit. Here, and we have lots of shading under his tummy. So turn your picture if that's easier for you. And we want to shade, you know, it doesn't make too much difference how I turn them. I'll pull this down a little bit off his chest. It doesn't look quite so perfect. I want to turn it this way, but I know it doesn't really show too well the video, but that's okay. You do your own shading, I'll do mine. Let's have it where he's, and then he is still yellow through here at this bottom part of his chest. So once you get your shadow in there, I'm going to go back and take that, have your yellow, carry it back a little bit as well. So how's he coming along? Let's get some nice deep. It doesn't look too bad. It's always hard to get these wispy feathers that come off the chest and go and overlap onto the wing. It's always hard to get those. But as long as his chest is kind of like broken up a little bit with texture, you'll be fine. How's the bill for your sketch? Do you want to darken it with the colored pencil, or is it better to use the pen? I think I'm going to use the pen actually, just to carefully give some better definition and depth to these feathers that come off the face, his little eyebrow. So just use, if you're going to use pen like me, just use a really light pressure and just a couple little feature feathers around the eye and the face. And under the bill. Just using a combination of our colored pencil, our ink. See how his eye ring is white? I'm just gonna, it's actually yellow, so I want to tone down this white on the top part of his eye. I don't want to get too carried away with too much pressure or anything like that. That's why the colored pencil is kind of like a safe bet, you know? And his cheek feathers are a little bit darker than what I've done. And then if you feel you've done it too dark, you can go back and highlight with some of the yellow. So in looking at your own work, just see where, you know, is he as dark as he should be in those sections? Did you leave him a nice distinct white wing bar? And if there's too much white in his wings, you can always just shade it in with more of the black. I didn't spend any time on his tail, but that's okay. We should use our pen. Let's just use our pen right now while we're here and put in some of these borders that we see for his tail feathers. Just a few. And then underneath, a little bit dark, a little bit dark. So we've got the curve of his body and then the white feathers that are catching the light here. And then see how underneath his tummy, maybe I could have it a little bit darker for the shading. And then the back of the head just to blend the black and the yellow. I don't know, I kind of feel like I'm dicking around now. So what do you think? You know, so how about we just use our black colored pencil and softly fix this post that he's perched on. Not a lot of pressure, but just so that it's shaded a little bit. Let's soften some of this pen that we've done. Or hopefully you've been clever and not done any pen at all. Do they have nice, sturdy, dark little legs? Nice clean lines. At least that's one thing that we could do. There's a little joint here. I'm worried about his feet because there's too much potential to do more harm than good. But what I've found is it's always effective just emphasizing the claws. If everything else is screwed up, if his claws are visible, it seems to be helpful. Okay, and then do you want to use your pen just to clean up? Do you have any markings around his bill that are a little bit too wobbly? He's not a cross bill. That's better. Oh, what do you think? I don't like this here. I'm gonna end up having to darken his back to sort of smooth this out. One correction is leading to another correction. Oh, remember how I said that if you don't have that depth of black through his wing, these feather borders, grab your pen and just use the ink to take care of that. You see these guys in the tree, they're yellow and black, and you think, goodness, and then they're gone, and you think, oh, that was a little warbler. Okay, and then just a little bit of black emphasis on his tail, for that tail feather. Well, how about that? I'm sure yours is much nicer. But anyway, I did want to give this a try of just like, you know, trying to combine our pen with our colored pencil. See what happens. I don't know. It's a good experiment. Okay, as usual, thank you so much for your company. Have a fabulous day. I'll see you next time.